A huge storm system is set to impact the United States this weekend, kicking off the potential for a multi-day severe weather outbreak, with threats including damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes. At the same time, a spring snow and ice storm is possible on the colder side of this system, bringing the threat of dangerous travel and power outages across parts of the upper Midwest and the Northeast. So in today's forecast, we are going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next 7 days. So let's jump right into the severe weather potential for the next few days, and we'll begin with what's happening tomorrow, as this will be the beginning of a multi-day severe weather outbreak. Saturday is a more conditional risk. It's not necessarily guaranteed that we will see severe weather, but we do have a slight risk of severe weather in place in western Missouri, eastern Kansas, and northern Oklahoma, where damaging winds, large to very large hail, and even a tornado or two will be possible. The marginal risk of severe weather goes from Illinois all the way back into Texas, which once again, the further south you go here, it's going to be a more conditional risk, meaning storms may or may not fire up, but if they do, all hazards of severe weather would be a possibility, and we'll talk more about this setup here in just a moment. Heading into Sunday, this is easily going to be one of the most concerning days for severe weather that we've had so far in March. We have a massive enhanced risk of severe weather now in place from the Ohio Valley back into the lower Mississippi River Valley, and this is where we're expecting the threat for widespread severe weather, and the Storm Prediction Center has warned that strong and long track tornadoes are in play in this region. And I think what's going to happen on Sunday is that we're going to be dealing with two different modes of severe weather. We'll have a line of thunderstorms developing back off to the west, and with how large of a warm sector we have out in front of that line, any supercells that are able to develop out in front of that line of thunderstorms could become tornadic very easily with how much wind shear that we are going to have, and those could be able to produce the threat for long track tornadoes. So we need to watch that potential very closely. I think what will happen is that threat will mainly be from the Mississippi River Valley and eastward. So if you're in Kentucky, Tennessee, even in the Dixie Alley, Ohio, Indiana, you definitely need to make sure that you are staying weather aware. But really anywhere in any of these risks, we are talking about a significant risk for severe weather, because there is a potential for numerous to widespread damaging winds out of that line of thunderstorms that develops. Right now, though, Sunday is shaping up to be a very dangerous day, and we're going to be talking all about this with the future radar in just a few moments. And then by Monday, our risk of severe weather will shift to the East Coast, where we are still anticipating some numerous to widespread severe weather. Over to the north side of this risk, we are mainly talking about damaging winds for those back over in southern New England and back through the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic. But if you're back over in the Southeast, this is where we could still have some widespread severe weather ongoing, especially near the beginning of Monday, which when I say beginning, I'm talking about the early morning hours. And then as we go into the late morning and afternoon, severe weather is expected to continue from North Carolina back to the Gulf Coast, where damaging winds, some large hail, and then also a few tornadoes are in play. I also want to point out that this is one of the largest slight risks of severe weather that we've ever had on a day 4 outlook. It's coming in at the top 3 largest ever at almost 469,000 square miles, which is absolutely crazy. We're going to go day by day, beginning with Saturday, which is still a much more conditional risk of severe weather. However, these are your significant tornado parameter values right around 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the evening hours on Saturday. And this is pretty crazy. I mean, we have a very favorable environment for tornadoes. The problem will be that we do have a large cap in place, which means that storms are going to not really be able to develop on Saturday due to a temperature inversion aloft. And as long as that stays in place, this environment probably will not be used up. However, if for some reason something really dramatically changes in the next 24 to 48 hours, there is something definitely to watch here, because there's a lot of wind shear, a lot of instability, definitely a very favorable environment for tornadoes. But the problem again will be that we will likely not see storms fire up in Oklahoma or Texas. Even if they do, I think they'll end up being more of a hail risk rather than a tornado risk for many different reasons. But if you're further off to the north, this environment in Kansas and Missouri is an area that we need to watch more closely, because it's more likely that we will see storms fire up in Kansas and western Missouri, with our dominant risk being large to very large hail, but a tornado or two are still in play. So for the timing on Saturday, we'll have a low pressure system sitting over in central Nebraska. Meanwhile, we'll have moist air coming out of the south. Instability will be growing in Oklahoma and Kansas. Despite there being a lot of instability on Saturday, our problem will be storm initiation with that cap that's going to be in place. But I do think storms will fire off right around 6 to 7 o'clock in eastern Nebraska and central Kansas. And these will end up being very isolated at first, but we should see them become a little bit more numerous to widespread as we go into the evening hours. But if they become more widespread like this will will limit the risk of very large hail and tornadoes. So just keep that in mind, at least for Saturday's setup of severe weather. Sunday's a little bit different. As we go into the late evening hours, storms will be trying to approach Kansas City and also in northern Oklahoma. Any storm that can stay discreet out of this batch of storms will have the capability of large hail and damaging winds. After midnight, these storms are moving to the east, and the risk of severe weather after midnight will be lower, but it will not be zero. There is a chance that we go live tomorrow if storms fire and if they do look concerning, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon down below so you're notified if we do go live. Now, as we go into Sunday, our risk of severe weather is anticipated to be much more widespread. This is by Sunday afternoon on our tornado parameter values, and notice how there is a huge area that we are talking about the potential for severe weather, including the risk of tornadoes. And this is a very large warm sector that is in place on Sunday, and this looks like it'll be one of the largest warm sectors we've seen so far this year, which is going to open the door for there being a line of thunderstorms and then also some discrete supercells out in front of it, leading to a relatively favorable environment for a severe weather outbreak on Sunday. And even by the late evening and into the overnight hours, even in parts of Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas, Mississippi, this is just after midnight, we still have a very favorable environment for tornadoes late Sunday night. And then into Monday, the good news is that the tornado risk will be lower, but it will still exist from the Gulf Coast all the way back into the Northeast, where again, a chance for strong tornadoes is in play, especially if we end up seeing discrete supercellular activity in this region. So it is going to be a very busy Sunday and Monday, I think, across the United States. And I do think that there's a chance that we are live for well over 20 hours just in the 2-day span of Sunday and Monday if everything goes as forecasted. So definitely make sure that you're staying tuned. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, as we are going to almost undoubtedly have a major severe weather outbreak on Sunday and Monday. Now, as we go throughout the next few days, we'll have plenty of rain still falling along the Gulf Coast. Unfortunately, there were flash flood emergencies right near the Mexico and Texas border last night, and that was because we had over 10 inches of rainfall in some locations. As we go into tonight and late tomorrow morning, we'll be talking about some ice accumulation back over in upstate New York and heavy snowfall in northern New England, and that'll actually get worse as we go into Saturday night into Sunday as this low pressure system intensifies over the central plains. Saturday night, rain continues along the Mississippi River Valley. Severe weather is unlikely in this region. By late Saturday night, storms will fire up again in Kansas and Missouri, as we showed you just a moment ago. By Sunday morning, there will be some freezing rain and snow across Wisconsin and Minnesota. This will be mainly in central and northern Wisconsin, where ice accumulation upwards of 1/10 of an inch of ice will be possible in many areas. We could even have some spots near 1/4 of an inch of ice accumulation, which could lead to some isolated power outages, and then heavy snowfall with several inches of snow is possible in northern Minnesota and the upper peninsula of Michigan. This will spread into the Northeast throughout the daytime on Sunday. And then once we reach lunchtime on Sunday, we'll have a few showers and thunderstorms happening in Illinois, but this activity really ramps up as we go into the mid to late afternoon hours from central Indiana back into northwestern Arkansas. And notice how we are talking about more than likely a line of thunderstorms, with many different little lines of thunderstorms developing and even a few discrete supercells during the mid to late afternoon and early evening, stretching from western Ohio back into southeastern Missouri and even into Louisiana. By around 9 o'clock, storms are moving into Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Arkansas. And then as we go into the late evening and overnight hours, this line of thunderstorms continues to plow east across Tennessee and the Dixie Alley. What I do think for Sunday is that we are going to be talking about, more than anything, the main concern being significant damaging winds. I do think that's going to be a numerous to widespread risk, as long as we end up having just one very long line of thunderstorms. Tornadoes are definitely still in play. That'll be probably one of our top concerns as well. But I do think we're leaning more towards there being just a full-blown line of thunderstorms developing, which would end up leading to a more significant risk of damaging winds. But there could also be some tornadoes in there, especially if we end up having that discrete supercellular mode of severe weather develop. Now, as we go into Monday morning, the severe weather risk will continue across the Dixie Alley. What happens on Monday is really going to depend on the evolution of what happens late Sunday night with that line of thunderstorms. If this line of thunderstorms stays organized and moves through the Dixie Alley, this will end up more than likely being our main risk of severe weather on Monday, with some embedded tornadoes in that line, and that would actually limit any discrete supercells from really developing in the afternoon hours in the southeast, which is a good thing, because if we end up seeing discrete supercells on Monday, that could lead to another significant risk of severe weather. Throughout the daytime on Monday, severe weather continues from the northeast back into the mid-Atlantic, with damaging winds continuing to be a threat, and then eventually by Tuesday morning, this is all moving offshore, and we'll be done with this more than likely major severe weather outbreak, especially on Sunday. But unfortunately, by the middle and end of next week, we are almost undoubtedly going to have another another big storm system, and we could have another severe weather outbreak on our hands sometime during the middle and end of next week. But again, a little too early to tell what's exactly going to happen. Just something that you're going to want to make sure that you are staying aware of is that we are going into April, and these severe weather events are only going to become more and more frequent throughout the month of April. And as always, thank you all so much for watching today's forecast. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We'll have another video for you tomorrow, possibly one on Sunday, depending on the timing of severe weather. And then we'll be live on Sunday, possibly a live stream on Saturday, and maybe live on Monday as well, as long as that severe weather risk does stay more significant. And there are now less than 3 days left. If you want to get 1 million subscriber merch, you can check this out at shopmaxvelocity.net. We have our signed hats, t-shirts, stickers, mugs, and much more. This is one of the best ways to support what we do here on this channel, so if you want to check it out, it is shopmaxvelocity.net.